Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Daisy Jones and the Six podcast. Now, when I speak, my topic is something that I call Take the Doughnut, which is another way to say Carpe Diem, and something that I wanted to do this year because that brand is all about doing the things that you want to do. Something I wanted to do this year is rewatch the show Daisy Jones and the Six, but this time talk about it with other people. And as part of that, I'm excited to do an interview today with somebody who actually worked on this show. Before we get into that, though, quick housekeeping item. We'll probably spoil the show in this conversation. So if you haven't seen the whole show before and you're worried about that, pause this, go watch the whole show, binge it, and come back. But if you've seen the show before, this is a great place to be. So I'm very excited to welcome my guest for today, who is Jonathan D'Ambrosio, who played Tobias on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks again for having me on your show.
So glad to have you here and get the scoop, the inside details of what it was like to work on the show and what you think about the show. And before we actually get into that part, we should know a little bit about your process for getting on the show to begin with. So, how did this role come to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I had received a request to tape for the part of Tobias, and that would have been in, say, like October 2021. And I had like a day to tape it, and so I real quick, put myself together and did a little bit of research, um, and got the tape sent out. The next day. We heard that they had pinned me for the role, which was like, okay, don't get too excited. You never know like where it's gonna go from here. And I want to say like 3 weeks later, we got an email that they had made an offer for me to play the part, and the process from there really picked up super quick.
Yeah, so it seems like for your role, it was fairly quick from when you found out that you had it to when you filmed it. I feel like for a lot of the people in the band, they had like a pretty long stretch there, maybe, with COVID involved, that pushed things back. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. From what I've heard, a lot of the casting had been done prior to the pandemic, and then production had to be put on hold for that time. So they had known that they were going to play in the project and had been working on the music and kind of building up the relationships there. So yeah, I kind of came on in after a lot of that initial work had been done, and I believe they were about a month or so into filming when I started.
Oh, okay. All right. So it was a machine that was moving already by the time you got in there. When you um so given that this has a 10 episode run, how much did you know about the role when you booked it? Like, did you have a full sense of what you'd be doing as Tobias, or was it coming to you sort of script by script?
Yeah, I believe we got each of the scripts that Tobias was in, but that was the only information that I knew about the character. So the first thing I did, I had known that the show was based on the book by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and so I immediately ran to a Barnes and Noble, bought the book, and was just going through it and trying to play catch up as quickly as I could to learn more about what was going on outside of these episodes that I was in, and also to see if I could find some details about the Tobias character. So I was just every day trying to get as many pages as I could in the book through, and just kind of taking a lot of notes while getting ready for the project.
Okay, so you bought the book, you read the book. What was there other prep that you were able to do as you were getting ready for this, especially having so little information on the page from the script itself?
Yeah, I just immediately needed to. I wanted to feel like I knew the world that this show took place in. So, I was watching a lot of, like documentaries on YouTube about bands in the 70s and just trying to kind of really imagine what that must have felt like. And listening to a lot of music of the time, yeah, just trying to really immerse myself in that 70s rock and roll time. Um, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so I was going to ask if you had more knowledge about the story itself that was in the script beyond what was happening with Tobias, but it sounds like no. It sounds like you just sort of had what was right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Which I mean, I think for this project, I mean, Tobias is involved with the recording of the band, and he doesn't really know, who is this band that's like showing up, and Billy thinks he's, this, rock star kind of guy. It's like he doesn't. It's just a job, He's there to make the sound quality as best as it possibly can be, and so part of it, I feel like, kind of, it made sense. He doesn't really know much beyond the experience of being in the studio. But of course, as the actor, I needed to know, like, what's going on in this story.
Yeah, for Tobias, this is just one of the many bands that he works with day to day.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it would kind of be interesting to see the whole story from the point of view of Tobias. They're just like all the different bands that go in.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
no,
gosh.
really. I
Spin-off.
no, really. I tend to think a lot about what his experience had been up to that point, because it it's not really like he would be all that impressed with another rock band coming through. So the kind of energy in the studio, it's secondary to him. He's very focused on the technical and really following Teddy's lead in those moments. So similarly, I wonder what his journey would have looked like leading up to that point.
Yeah. Well, I guess one more general question before we get into specific episodes. You've worked on a number of projects. What stands out to you about working on this project as opposed to other ones that you've worked on?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really know what to expect going into this. I knew it was a really large production. So I think I expected to see a lot more like moving pieces and to be a bit overwhelmed by the process. But immediately from the first day showing up, the entire crew and cast were so welcoming and caring, and it was a very personal experience. There was almost like an intimacy to it. I think part of that was everyone had gotten to know each other over such a long period of time prior to shooting. And so I was really entering it. I was kind of felt like going to like a family reunion where it was just the energy was so great. And and so that really like comforted me and calmed me down, and gave me the confidence to kind of just go in and be a part of this. And yeah, I really think the everyone made such an effort to kind of like welcome me in, which was just so nice. It felt like just like a small, like, tight knit project, even though it was just, this massive production.
It's a really nice, like what you went in expecting ended up being kind of like a softer experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone was so kind. I mean, I remember the first day that I got there, I got into the wardrobe and everything. And they kind of tossed me in with the rest of the band members. They kind of had like a holding room where they had all been hanging out and would kind of rehearse and talk through the scenes and stuff together. And so I kind of, just got like tossed in with everybody, and the entire cast. It felt like we had all known each other, like, prior to this. There was just so much, like I say, this kind of like warmth, openness from everybody. Like, hey, welcome in. You're like, you're part of the band now. It was almost like, yeah, it felt really exciting. It felt really exciting.
This is so good to hear. Well, if we look at the role of Tobias and the, specific episodes that you were in. So if we start in episode 3, Someone Saved My Life Tonight, Tobias makes his first appearance and Daisy joins the Six in the studio for the first time. So this is a really monumental moment in this series where we're really starting to integrate her into the band. I can see that Tobias has a technical role, but he's also doing things like fetching milk and whiskey for Daisy. So, what is his actual job here?
Yeah. So he would be a recording technician or recording engineer. Um, but I always kind of got the impression that anything that needs to be done, he's going to be on it. And that's really in service to the producer, Teddy Price. So anything Teddy needs, if Tobias needs to jump in there, he's on it, because any help that he can contribute will help the recording process to get the best product to get the best result. And so there's really no hesitation to jump on this and yeah, and make it as comfortable of an experience as he can for in this case, Daisy.
Mm. One of the details that we find out in this episode, and it's sort of a really fun detail of your character, is so Tobias gets the milk and the whiskey for Daisy. He brings it to her. He clinks the glasses together and says Prost, which is cheers in German. So, how much of a backstory did you create for Tobias yourself? Whatever was on the page, how far beyond that did you go in your prep when you were thinking about who this character was?
Yeah, I tried to keep the information that was in the script in both the book as like the primary reference point. And then really just wanted to fill in so that I felt, yeah, to some degree authentic in that space. And so knowing that, in the book and in the script, Tobias is a German character, I had to kind of imagine how he came to Los Angeles and what would have been that what would his North Star have been that brought him to that place? And when he would have grown up, that would have been right around the time that the Beatles were playing a lot in Hamburg, some of their first shows, and kind of the excitement around that, something that was so new at that time. And so I thought, okay, maybe this is like the spark that got him into this, and he's just been pursuing that, but through a technical approach, through more of the recording process and the equipment and trying to get that kind of like perfect sound. And eventually that led him to Los Angeles, where I'm sure he was working as a runner and worked his way up to the position that he has. But I always had the impression that he was somebody who, he would hang around the recording studios and anything anyone would ask, he would jump in and do it until, they started asking him to do more, and he started to learn how to use all of the equipment and suddenly became the go-to guy in the situation. But a lot of that kind of initial research helped to kind of inform how he would have behaved in those scenes.
Mm, this is so good. This Tobias spinoff has legs, I think. I want to see this story play out, and I want to see all the bands that gets in front of and
Yeah,
works with as he gets further into his career. Oh my goodness. Well, I have a lot of technical questions about, how things got done on this show. And one of them is these studio scenes. We have quite a bunch of studio scenes across some of these episodes. Was this a set? Were you in an actual studio? What was the actual filming location like?
Yeah, so for all of those studio scenes, we shot at this recording studio, it's a real recording studio in the Valley called Sound City. There's a great documentary about this place that you can watch, and it just so many iconic bands had recorded there, like Nirvana, Fleetwood Mac, Red Hot Chili Peppers. There's a huge list, and so this place is a staple of the Los Angeles music scene. And it was amazing that they were able to shoot here. And that set, so what you see in the show, it was really like a facade that they had built inside of this actual recording studio. So a lot of the hallways, I think, were redesigned to look like they were, from the 70s. And the larger recording studios, I think they brought in perhaps like some older equipment so that it fit for the time period. But from what I understand, a lot of work had been done and put in by the production to kind of take it back in time to what it might have looked like. And walking onto that set was an absolutely magical experience, truly. If it was super like it transported me back to what I can only imagine it must have like felt like. They did an amazing job.
So it was a set within a studio. It was both of the things that I asked. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, because, we get a lot, in terms of like where the cameras actually are, when we're in the studio itself with the band, there's tons of room to move around in there. But when you're on the side that Tobias is sitting on, usually like it looks like a fairly tight space. So because it's a set, I'm sure they accommodated like a place for all the crew, and where people would be standing for that. Because it is reflective glass that we're looking at in that space.
Yeah, I can't imagine, some of the conversations to figure out how to capture that because, not wanting to see reflections, but they used an incredibly small, like lean crew for all of the filming in there. I mean, there would be, 25 people that would kind of pour in to get like last looks and stuff and make sure everything's good. Everyone would leave. You'd have like the sound, the boom operator, and maybe two cameras rolling in there, and that was it. And so it was actually really wonderful because when you were filming it, you kind of forget that you're filming. There wasn't the feeling of being on a film set. It just felt like you're in this recording studio space. Um, and typically we would film start to finish a lot of these scenes. It wasn't really, sometimes they'll do, like, okay, we're going to get these three lines of dialogue, then we're going to jump over here and film this other bit. They would just roll usually the entire scene start to finish. And so it was like doing a play. We all felt like it was like doing a play. You're completely immersed in those scenes. And yeah, major props to the entire crew for how they pulled that off. I can't imagine the stamina it took to hold these camera rigs for that long.
In terms of your schedule, it's because okay, so they filmed entire scenes in one go, but were you filming out of order? Like, how was your schedule for this, given that you were in a few different episodes? Were you pulling from different episodes, sort of out of sequence, or how did that work?
Yeah, for the part of the production that I was on, I'm pretty sure they filmed mostly chronological, and I'm not sure for the other bits of the show, but I'm pretty sure from when I showed up, it was kind of the first instance of my character, and then it progressed over those years. So it was very easy to kind of follow, and you could feel. I think we started off in this kind of smaller studio because it was like, okay, the band's just starting off. They're not in the big studio yet, and by the end, we're in that massive studio in there. But yeah, pretty sure it was mostly like a chronological experience.
Hmm. Okay, so in terms of what's happening, the activity of this episode, tension's running pretty high. Billy and Daisy are going to sing together for the first time. They are not on the same page for the first run through that they do. I'm curious, we hear honeycomb a couple different times here, or pieces of it. When the first time they go to do it, they're sort of in and out of dialogue. They're figuring out they're not on the same page, that they're not working with the same lyrics. And it makes me wonder, were they singing live during the scene? How did that work?
Yeah, that's so great technical question. I'm not sure how much of the on-set singing was used in the final show. Uh, but while we filmed, and again, this is like a huge props to this cast. They were a proper band at that point that we were shooting. Everyone was playing the instruments and everyone was singing through all of the takes. And I was blown. I mean, you're like getting a front row seat to a recording session every day. It was fantastic. So they definitely were singing throughout all of that. And if they used it, I mean, it's what happened there in the moment. It was, yeah, they were amazing.
Okay, this is good to know because especially that's, some of the scenes later, it's like I guess they could have been, like mouthing to recorded tracks, or you could dub in the recorded tracks, but especially that first time we're hearing them sing together, it's very rough. They're working it out, so I don't. It's interesting to know that on the day they were actually singing it. Um, Billy is going to take a break here, and Daisy's going to start doing her sound check with Tobias, and she's doing the hello Tobias bit. Um, Billy asks, "What the fuck is a Tobias?" You sit up straight. You're like, "I'm a Tobias." Uh, so first of all, well, look, Tobias was actually introduced to Daisy in this episode in front of the whole band, so Billy probably should have his name. But also, this isn't the first time the Six has been in this studio. I'm not sure if it's the first time Tobias has worked with them. So, in your mind, is this like, had he worked with Billy before? What does he think about Billy here? Like, what was the backstory going into this with the band itself?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the prior relation, it's not my guess that he had worked with Billy before, but that he had heard about Billy kind of
Okay.
around town. Um, and yeah, I mean, I get the impression Tobias has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, especially when it comes to, the individuals leading these bands, there tends to be that ego coming in, I think, especially in those kind of early days. So it's just kind of, here we go again, right? I mean, it's nothing new for him to have to endure this kind of like feeling invisible in that experience. So I think he needs this feeling that Billy respects him and that he also earns Billy's respect. And that in those early moments, there's clearly no bridge being built, especially with some of the things that Billy says. So yeah, I mean, but again, he's there to get the highest quality recording possible. And so if there's kind of this drama going on around him, it's like whatever, it's like he's dialed in.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm curious about this. There's a sequence of lines that comes up here. Daisy does her sound check and she's got Tobias laughing the whole time. At one point, she says "Klappe Affe tot," which is a German expression. And I was looking this up and it's like this is the end, the show's over, something like that. Tobias comments that she has a perverse sense of humor. What was he thinking here? Because I feel like a little bit of this might be like knowing the translation properly. So what is he thinking about Daisy here?
Yeah, I think just that she had the ability to, in that moment, turn it into a light situation where she's really kind of saying it how it is. She's kind of, calling it out as it's happening, and that switch into humor, and then in this moment, especially like her connecting with kind of the least important person in the room in that moment. I think he appreciated that, and so they kind of immediately established that connection, and that was certainly the moment Tobias was like, okay, I don't care about anything that's going on here with Billy, but I'm gonna now invest everything I have into this because Daisy's making this effort to kind of make him feel seen. And so I think, yeah, he's kind of just, enjoying this moment of like, okay, she gets it. She gets it clearly. She knows how this is supposed to go down.
Yeah, okay, good. So if we go into episode 5 here, Fire, we see there's a lot of shots of what's happening with the band, and then you're in the room, like alone or with Teddy, but you're doing your thing, you're working. But at a certain point, we see Daisy pushing back on Billy. She wants to get more input for the band on the songs. By the end of the episode, Billy and Daisy have written "Let Me Down Easy." The band records it. We see Tobias at the soundboard. So, how much did you actually know about the equipment that was in front of you? I don't know how you would have gotten this information in prep, but there's very complex equipment in front of you. So, how much did you know about this?
Yeah, as far as the equipment that was there, I truly, didn't have any knowledge going in. So I immediately tried to kind of find the right people to talk to and just see if I could get like a tutorial of what I should be doing, at least what I should be interacting with. And this is a huge shout out to Sam Stallings, who worked on the project as like a technician and truly was like running the actual cables. It was an entirely functional recording setup that they had. And Sam gave me like the best rundown about, okay, here's kind of what, while you're recording, this is what you're going to be doing. When you're not recording, here's what you're going to be thinking about, and here's what you might be worried about. And so there was a lot of nuance, I think, established in those first couple days, just asking a ton of questions. And Sam was amazing in helping me out so that I didn't feel like I was just, messing around with stuff. I think one of the interesting insights that came from that process was Sam had mentioned, while they're actually recording, you're really not going to be doing anything because you've already spent a lot of time doing sound tests, making sure that the levels are correct, making sure it's all mixed properly. So once the band shows up, it's ready to roll. And so that was great. Just knowing like, okay, he's been here for hours, late nights, early mornings, just getting dialed in. And once the band's there, it's like, okay, now I can kind of sit back and maybe I have to tweak a couple things, but it should be good to go. So that kind of got a little bit of a crash course just to understand the equipment, which helped a ton.
Shout out to Sam for the tutorials. Excellent. The camera work is beautiful in this song, and I think it's indicative of the type of camera work they'll do in this space anytime they're in this studio. There's a ton of movement. It's a lot of like sweeping motions around the room. What do you remember about the recording of this song?
Oh, well, this was maybe yeah, this has to be one of my favorite moments on the show. We again like would record these scenes start to finish typically, and being immersed and hearing the music for the first time. I think this is the first time that I'd heard that song. Um, and there, it's playing through the speakers and everyone is performing live as well. And so there's really like up until that moment, it's been a lot of the drama. It's been a lot of the, people talking and the tension and everything. And that's the moment where things kind of really align and you can see everyone kind of becoming aware like, oh, we're capturing this magic as a band here. And so, I remember getting to experience that just as an actor on set and being like blown away by it, seeing this all kind of come together, but then also through the character's point of view, it's really the first moment that Tobias is like, okay, you know what? I think they're onto something. I think I think we've got something. Kind of looking over at Teddy, like they got that sparkle in their eyes, in this moment.
Hmm. It must be, especially when your character has seen so many bands come in and out of that space, there must be something about seeing a band that has a different quality to them, like a different potential in them. Um, you know, like we see in a couple episodes, like people who are, the suits of the label who are like making quick decisions based on tapes, but I bet Tobias has a totally different viewpoint of who has the goods and who doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for him, it's really informed by the taste that Teddy Price has, the producer. I think Tobias has really, been mentored by Teddy to know what to look out for, which in a lot of these moments, Teddy kind of throughout the show, he makes these last minute adjustments that are kind of just like that nice finishing touch on these songs. And Tobias is very much, like just so excited by each of those additions that he adds. And yeah, I think Teddy probably gave him a lot of support and a lot of they probably had a lot of these long conversations about, hey, here's what's working, here's what's not, here's what to look out for. And when, Tobias kind of looks over and sees Teddy's completely captivated, it's like, oh, this is rare. This is rare. And they took a huge risk combining these two artists together to try to do this band. And he's seeing it all happen. And Tobias is just like, oh, this is the days that, he would look forward to the most, I think, in his position.
Well, you're talking a lot about the Tobias and Teddy relationship. So, what about the Jonathan and Tom Wright relationship? What was it like working with Tom?
Oh, absolutely the best. I mean, I would say is a complete, reflection of the characters' relationship, I think really became our relationship working together. Tom, he mentored me through this. I mean, he was so calm and relaxed through the entire process. And I think that kind of I could kind of, hold on to that confidence that he had and he kind of guided me through. I mean, we would go to lunch together and sit and talk and learn about each other's lives and he really extended his hand out to me just to kind of welcome me into that space and so that really informed I think how what their dynamic is in the actual show so it was kind of the seamless relationship it was which is so nice.
Mm. Oh, that's so nice to hear. If we go back to, well, episode 6, actually, whatever gets you through the night, we're gonna get this moment where, I mean, we really pack the room I guess the engineering side of the studio with everybody in the band. Everybody's listening to the final version of Kill You to Try together. When you're listening back, what audio were you actually hearing during this scene? Because it's all about the reactions.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe they were playing the actual recording that had already been done. And so we really were sitting back listening to like a finished product. And I think even up until that point, part of the satisfaction that we all feel, probably comes from a lot of the filming that had already been done, and we had kind of gone through the difficulties, in the recording process as the band, and getting to see all those scenes play out. And now we're all truly, sitting in there and being able to reflect for the first time together. That was like again, one of these like really beautiful moments. There were a handful of those moments where we'd be in the recording, studio side of it, and we'll have gotten through an entire take of a song. And whether or not it was supposed to happen in the scene, there were many instances where we would get like emotional just because it was very moving. Like there's definitely takes where I think like Teddy and I both like a little tear goes down our, face because we're genuinely moved by it. I mean, and so I think that scene where we're all kind of in there getting to reflect for the first time, that's a pretty like genuine, authentic reaction to just feeling that in the moment as well.
Yeah, because you're all really doing it. Yeah, it's so good. So Billy in this episode is going to make Daisy sing More Fun to Miss over and over and over again while you all watch. We get this scene shown to us with a bunch of quick cuts to just give us an indication how many times this happened, and how strenuous an exercise this was for Daisy. So, but when you're actually filming this, what was your experience of this on the day?
Yeah. Yeah, because of the nature of the scene, it's a bit more tense and kind of a darker moment for everybody. And so that you could feel that. But I think what's so great about this cast is everyone was like had an incredible sense of humor. And so in between in between a lot of takes, there's just like jokes going every which way. And so like even though it was like a more tense scene, there was this lightness throughout that process. But yeah, I mean, for the characters in that moment, that's where we start to go back to a lot of the concerns I think Tobias would have had in the beginning, which is like, okay, who does this Billy guy think he is? And now that they've gotten to the point where they're doing really good, it's like that ego starts to come back, and he really starts to drill down again. And I think that starts to fracture the experience, for the characters.
For in terms of watching Riley in this, how much of the song was she running? Because we see like a lot of times he's like, start again, no, go back. And how far was she getting in to this song each time, or was she even singing each time? Um,
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember exactly how much around what is in the scene we shot, but yeah, again, from my knowledge, everyone was singing throughout all of this. So doing it over and over and over again, I think it's yeah, that's tough.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So if we just look at sort of the big picture of this show, first of all, what's your favorite Daisy Jones and the Six song?
I gotta say, probably Let Me Down Easy. I think that both because I do really love the song, but it was the first moment, I think, where everyone was together and we just felt this joy of, okay, there's some kind of synergy, chemistry that's coming together in this moment, both in the show and the scene, but also for the cast. It was just that it was like one of the best moments. And so I think anytime I hear that song, it takes me back to that experience. But of course, I mean, this entire soundtrack is amazing what they accomplished with it.
Yeah. And yeah, the way they shot that is downright magical. I mean, it was maybe one of the most celebratory looks in terms of camera work at one of the songs. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, so Daisy Jones and the Six, after they leave the studio, they become more and more popular. They become a bigger and bigger band. The audience grows. From Tobias's standpoint, like what was special about this group that would appeal to audiences?
Oh man. Yeah. Well, I think eventually in the end, it's similar to what I think Tobias is always going to kind of back up what Teddy feels. So Teddy saw from the beginning some sort of chemistry that would fit between Daisy and Billy. And I think Tobias was skeptical because he doesn't know. He's not as tuned into this as Teddy is, but eventually kind of grew into that perspective. And yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of the bands at that time, a lot of people talk about kind of Fleetwood Mac and sort of the similarities there. And I think, imagining being in the studio when Fleetwood Mac is recording, you're just witnessing this incredible power. And so I think he's aware of that, but it's like a double-edged sword because it is also there are a lot of challenges that happened or that took place to get them to that point where this kind of fire is happening. And so it's seeing the power of that, but it's also like, uh, aware of what it took to get to that. And I think there's kind of the nuance there.
Mm. I know that you've seen the whole series. So when you think about it, outside of your storyline, what are some of the storylines or scenes from this show that jumped out the most for you when you watched it?
Oh man. Well, part of that for me comes from just my own like character's perspective, which really happened when I was reading the book, which this would be, one of these spoilers, right? But when I read that Teddy doesn't make it, and that it was so devastating because that I had no idea that was coming, and so I'm reading the book, going like, all right, Teddy and Tobias, we're gonna like really continue to build this like empire that Teddy had established, right? And like this is just the next band for us, and we're gonna continue, and this their story's gonna keep going. So when I found out that he passes away, I mean that's the most devastating thing imaginable. And so yeah, that shook me and really affected me. And then all of the questions of, well, what is Tobias's experience? Because was Teddy the reason that he was around? If Teddy's gone, does the bigger studio executives kind of come in and be like, get out of here, like we don't want you anymore. And so I think there was a lot of fear and anxiety for him in that story development. So I mean that definitely that hit me for sure.
That's a detail that I didn't really register, because when we see his heart attack, we spend some time with that in the episode. But when he actually passes away, it happens, I think it's just mentioned sort of towards the end of the series in a voiceover, and we see some shots of him sort of still at his heyday.
Right.
Um, but yeah, Tobias was so linked.
Yeah, yeah, and you see, there's a little bit more of that in the book, where I mean, I think it was like uh, the character that inspired Tobias, Artie Snyder, I believe, calls Billy and is like, "Hey, Teddy's gone," and Billy has this just brutal, like gut-wrenching reaction to that. And so I just kind of had imagined this is something that happened, kind of on the outside of what the show will shows you. And so yeah, somewhere off to the side, Tobias is like completely broken and devastated.
It's
Which,
interesting because as you're talking about this, it's occurring to me how much not similarity there is between Tobias and Billy, but for Billy, Teddy is a father figure. He's much better than the father figure that Billy actually knows. Um, and I wonder, it was probably roughly the same sort of dynamic, right? With Tobias and Teddy. Um, and yet that didn't really create a kinship between Tobias and Billy.
right. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like older brother, younger brother situation, probably, right? And it's like, who's going to get dad's attention? Probably to some degree. But yeah, I mean, there isn't really this moment where they kind of, okay, in the loss of Teddy come together. And I wonder if after this story takes place, if that happened, I would have to imagine that, there is, not to speculate too much here, but like, I would imagine there's a moment where Tobias kind of confronts Billy and they kind of come to some sort of alliance in the absence of Teddy. I feel like that would make sense
I
for
mean,
them.
there would have been a funeral, right? Like I'm sure they would have seen each other again in that context. So if for another if for no other reason, because Billy kind of sort of gets out of music after the activity we see in the show.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, oh, this is so interesting. Okay, so I mean, this is good stuff. Were there any other scenes that jumped out at you as you watched the whole thing back?
Oh no, I mean, in general, watching the show was just so much fun because I wasn't there when they filmed, a lot of these other episodes. So it was just so fun to see how they pulled off all of those different story developments and yeah, I mean, just the scale and scope of the show. All of these, concerts and performance sequences are incredible. So it was super satisfying to see that all come together.
Mm. Well, given that this was a period piece, what were some of your favorite elements of the time period?
Yeah, I've loved this era of history so much. I grew up in a super musical household, so I've, listened to these kinds of bands like Fleetwood Mac growing up. So getting to go into that world and going into these wardrobe trailers where it's like, okay, we've got these three racks of clothing for Tobias. Like, what's he gonna wear? Which another note, I mean, all of the departments were so collaborative on this. I mean, I'm just this tiny, tiny piece of this, right? And they would all be like, "What do you think? Would he wear this?" I mean, it was like amazing how collaborative everyone was. So getting to find the character through the wardrobe was super fun. And same with the props department as well. I mean, we were trying on different watches and different types of glasses and just getting to work together and come up with those details completely immersed me into the world. So I would say with the time period, I mean, just getting to kind of feel transported. I mean, that's one of the joys of acting, especially working on like a historical project is just getting a glimpse into kind of like maybe what it would have felt like in those times. And, being that we were filming in this recording studio and there were so many details. I mean, that'd be like cigarette butts and like trash where there would be trash. I mean, like you'd open a cabinet and there would be things in the cabinet that would make sense. I mean, it was like the detail was insane. And so yeah, it felt super, authentic and real. I mean, you would think you're actually like living in another time. So that was just an absolute dream. That was an absolute dream.
Well, when you mentioned, like, it sounds like he had sort of a whole closet and you had options for like glasses and props and things like that. Do you remember, like, when you were making decisions together about like what he would wear? What kind of things were you deciding on? Like, what was your process for deciding this versus that? What were you aiming for?
Oh, I was just going with the lead of the departments because they know what works. I'm just kind of like putting stuff on and like, this is amazing. Like everything was like each like outfit combination just looked so incredible. I mean, yeah, it was so cool. It was so cool just getting to see their vision of like what he would have. And I think that kind of expanded my understanding of the character as well. Like I remember we were trying on like some of these sweaters and every time there would be one that had like an interesting pattern or was a little crazier, they'd be like, "Yeah, that's Tobias. He likes wearing like the more loud outfits and stuff," which I thought was so fun. Like I wouldn't have thought of that just on my own kind of prepping for this. So there were a lot of those ideas where the departments would get excited about something, and then you're just like, yeah, I mean, this is it. This is so cool. So yeah, it was like really just listening to their intuition and going with what felt right.
I love this detail that they gravitated towards all the loud prints for
Yeah.
Tobias because like he doesn't have a lot to say during the episodes. He has to be quiet and listen to like what's happening with the sound and yet he makes a statement everywhere he goes. It's so
That
good.
that's all that I mean that was their idea, right? I mean, like it was I don't know I don't know what was said in the moments that I wasn't there, but I do remember every time I would show up to a department, it just felt like they were excited to get to work on Tobias like as a character, right? Like excluding my own involvement. It was just like, yes, we get to do Tobias, and that enthusiasm was just so much fun. I never experienced something like that.
Hmm. What were some of your favorite moments from when you were on set, like when you weren't rolling?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of the in between, waiting, while they would set up different scenes, and we would all kind of be in a holding room somewhere, just kind of people sitting on the floor, laying on a couch, and whatever. Everyone had kind of their instruments, and would kind of be rehearsing or running through songs. And in those moments, it was also this just strange kind of like what is the show and like what is real life? Because it felt like in those moments you were in a band that was like waiting to go perform. I mean, everyone was constantly rehearsing and running through the songs. And I loved just getting to see that part of the process because it felt like something that could have also been in the show. It's like, okay, these moments in between where they're okay, we're going to work on this one little bit. We don't quite have this part down yet. And so they're just drilling it and drilling it. And I mean, the humor again, like this cast is so funny and like just all of the those moments in the downtime were amazing. And that extended through the entire crew. I mean, again, like the energy and the attitude and commitment that everyone brought to this was it just felt so special. And so I would just say all of those moments in between, I mean, getting to see the kind of like excitement from everyone. I mean, everyone knew they were creating something really special, and that was already there on set. I mean, that felt so great.
Hmm. Oh, this is so good to hear. So, are there some names have come up through this conversation, but are there any other members of the cast or crew that you wanted to acknowledge? Maybe unsung heroes that we don't hear a lot about, or people who were an integral part of your experience?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, Tom Wright really, really extended his hand to me and kind of guided me through the production process on this and really just kind of made me feel, welcomed in. But everyone in the main cast band as well. I mean, they were all again like inviting me. We were playing games and stuff, and I mean, it was just like, hey, come on, come hang out with us, and that just immediately felt like great. Just kind of showing up once that momentum had already started. It felt like, hey, get in here. We're going. Come with us. And again, Sam Stallings, like huge shout out for just making me, giving me that confidence and the knowledge of, okay, here's what you would be doing in these scenes with all this equipment. I mean, that was huge, absolutely huge.
So good. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to mention about the show that I didn't ask the question to get you there, but you want to make sure people know?
Oh man. Well, no, I mean, it was again just the experience on set was so unique, and so much work I'm sure had to be put in to get that tone where you walk, that first day and it feels like a family reunion. It's like as if you know everyone. And this kind of comfort and openness that everyone had. Um, and humor. I mean, again, like the show has funny moments certainly, but like I wish people could see more of the humor of this cast and stuff because it's just, yeah, people making each other laugh all the time and like that just felt so unique. And I think especially on projects of this scale, I mean, it's what kind of brings in this humanity, and I think that does kind of work its way into the project as well. But yeah, no, it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Well, I know it's been a very strange time in your industry for years now, really. But is there anything you want to plug? What's going on for you that you want to share with us?
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, the last couple of years, it's definitely been a roller coaster for a lot of people. But I'm super fortunate right now. About to start a feature film in a week. So I've been kind of immersed in the prep for that. I'm looking forward to going out and shooting it. But yeah, no, always looking forward to seeing kind of what's next.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for taking time and sharing all your thoughts about Daisy Jones and the Six, and giving us all the inside scoop of what it was like to be on set. So this has been so great.
Oh, thanks again so much for having me. I'm excited to hear what everyone else has to say, and yeah, really appreciate your passion for this project.
Yeah. Thank you again. And to everybody who's watching this, go out there and watch Daisy Jones and the Six. Bye, everybody.